Hello, everyone. It's Stephanie, and welcome to today's webinar, Your Assistant is Your Best Asset, with MAPS Coach and Vice President, Monica Reynolds. Please note this webinar is being recorded, and you will automatically receive the webinar recording. If you have questions for Coach Monica, please type them into the questions box located in your webinar control panel. Following the webinar, if you have any questions about today's call or our coaching programs, please email MAPS at maps@kw.com. That's all for me, Monica. Take it away.
Great. So everyone, thanks for being on the call. I know everybody's super busy after family reunion, and we've got a big bunch on the call. So I'm going to go pretty quick, and then be sure to put your questions in as we go. I'll stop periodically to see how I can answer those. So today's information is about your assistant, as your best asset, the perfect real estate assistant. So real quick, and then I'll cover this at the end. There is a great group program that I've been doing since dinosaurs have walked around. It's the biggest program, the best program as far as I'm concerned, and it's for you and real estate assistants. Each call each month, the first call is for you to be a great leader, how to be a great boss, and how to have retention, keeping your employees happy. And so there's 3 calls a month, 18 calls. The investment is $199 per month. Again, 3 live webinar calls. And the most important thing to hear, though, too, these calls are for you. At the end of the calls, there's a 450-page office policy and procedures manual that, of course, you're printing out each time. So each call will have 30 to 50 pages. If you want to keep it digital, you should do that. And so if you want to print it out and build a policy and procedures manual, you can do that, too. Okay, Steph, let's get to the program here. And at the end of the program, we've got a $100 discount for you, too. So here's my favorite saying, and then why this is appropriate with this title. Champions are champions, not because they do anything extraordinary, but because they do the ordinary things better than anyone else. I mean, you take a look at those crazy New England Patriots, not my favorite team. However, do they not do the things, the basics, better than anyone? They just do the basics. Now, they didn't have such a good year last year. Oh, too bad. But they do the basics. And so the basics are your listings, your pending files, and having the basic office procedures, and having standards, and having a culture where the customer is always right. We're going to change that word to consumer now. We're going to use that because we have a consumer app. And so just take a look at that. To me, that's just such a key fun thing to know. All right, so the next page, let's go to. And on this particular one, a real estate assistant should be a profit center for your business. I hired my first assistant in the early 80s, like 80, 81, whatever. And I was a single mom, 3 kids. The last thing I needed was a mouth to feed. However, I was doing about 55, 60 transactions on my own, blew up a marriage, obviously, and, just really was struggling keeping up with the business. And I finally succumbed to the fact and hired an assistant. What was great about that is that assistant helped me double my business that next year. And so your first hire, you should make it is an assistant, of course, following the models. And that gives you leverage and allows you to focus on your 20%. And so those hours, even if you go with a part-time assistant, they can put certain systems and activities into place, especially using command. And those things can be automatically done, and you can have your part-time assistant do that. So just a hypothetical, if you have a part-time assistant, let's say you pay them $12 an hour. You have them 10 hours a week, 2 hours a day, or whatever it happens to be. And during that time, you do a lot of focused lead generation. Plus, you're out of the paperwork. And you're paying $120 a week. You're paying $500 a month. What kind of return, if you did a concentrated 40 hours of lead generation, that gives you back in your world? Let's see, would you do 3 or 4 extra transactions? Just saying. So the real estate assistant is a secret weapon, and your job description as an agent, of course, is that you are a powerful salesperson. Nowhere does it say you're great at paperwork. Nowhere does it say you're great at systems. There's nothing with paperwork and system that go with a salesperson. So this allows you, an assistant allows you to build a duplicatable and scalable system. And the assistant's going to be the CEO of the file. But once you lay the foundation, whether you're doing 20 transactions or 220 or 1,020, you have a scalable system. All the systems that I have that I'm going to share with you, in the training, those are all duplicatable and scalable. There are people that are doing over 2,000 transactions that are using those same systems. But you want to have a baseline where you start to build, and that's building the foundation of your business. You got to increase the database. You got to have a plan for that. And so the assistant can really drive that home. And when you're hiring your first assistant or an assistant, make sure that they're bringing at least 200 names, address, phone numbers, and people that they know from a previous life of working, or their friends, family, neighbors, people out of state, doesn't matter. Get them in there. Get them on the consumer app. The key thing too is that when you look at what are the top 3 things that a real estate assistant could do? Mine would be have them learn the database. Number 2, have them learn a phone call so that they can pick up the phone on a potential buyer, potential seller. I get it. I know what they can't say, and so should you. If they're a potential buyer, seller's calling in, but you need to have someone who can answer the phone when you're on appointment. Hopefully, you have a landline into your office. They can help build the repeat and referral business by, different letters going out. So I just got a letter, an email, in fact. I don't know how she got it. It wasn't a Keller Williams agent, but she sent it to my email address. I guess she got it maybe from the HOA, which is interesting, isn't it? And it basically said, here are the forms if you want to dispute your taxes, and here are the deadlines. And I thought, okay, that's a good customer service type of thing. And yet I would never do it as an agent, but I would have a staff person do it. The anniversary letters on the anniversary of the day that they bought the house, investment opportunities, a letter with, a spreadsheet on that investment opportunity, possibly to some people, would be investors. What about the tax closing statement? I knew you'd be looking for this. Here's a copy of your closing statement. Your closing statement from this year. So there's so many of those kind of customer service things, plus answering the phone and doing the Disneyland close. By the way, is there anyone else that you can think of that we could help buy or sell real estate? We so appreciate your referrals. Having your assistant ask that, or doing the Disneyland close, thanks for working with us. We really appreciate your business. Is there anything else I can do to help your day? Those kind of things just change the way your business is done. The database is critical. Putting a listing process in is critical. Putting a closing process in is critical. And building the culture of how people are treated on the phone calls and how things are handled, with the tonality and the voice. And remember, a contact is not an email. A contact is not a text. No one's ever going to call you and say, hey, I love those emails. I want to list my house. Doesn't happen. The relationship is built over the phone. And then, just briefly, there's so many that, they're an asset for, and that's developing programs with vendors. We see these client appreciation parties being hugely, hugely, hugely successful, and having an assistant coordinate those and having a goal that doesn't cost you money, that vendors participate. I know the rest of the law. They're not writing you a check. They're going to pay for those things themselves and contribute to the party. Just really looking at the asset of assistant. To me, it's the immediate response to a client is so valuable. Things that I didn't like to do, which would be basically putting names in the database. So, for example, you should have a goal every day that there are 3 complete name, address, phone number, and emails put in the database. So all these systems, of course, are put into the Perfect Real Estate Assistant class starting next week. But what I want you to hear is, on a scale to 1 to 10, what's your system for database growth? You've got to have it, got to be monitoring it. On a scale of 1 to 10, do you have the perfect bulletproof listing system? On a scale of 1 to 10, is your pending system perfect? On a scale of 1 to 10, what's your customer's experience like? On a scale of 1 to 10, what lead generation systems do you have in place that your assistant is helping? There's so many things, and someone's going to say, well, my assistant can't do all that. Oh, no. If they have time blocking and the schedule, which I go over to help them with that. So let's go to the next slide. And so one of the things next I wanted to share with you is to ask these questions. How is your assistant a measurable profit center for you? So, I used to look at that all the time. What's the ROI on my assistant? And so the ROI on an assistant is very simple. Did they find a referral from a current client by asking them, by the way, Just wanted to let you know we'd love another great client like you. Who do you know right now thinking about buying or selling? Role play that with them and get them to ask everybody. Are they asking the vendors very specifically? We need, a buyer seller from you this month. We'd really like you to give that to us, a referral. And so, measurable, those are measurable. What else is measurable is, did they get any 5-star reviews? So thank you for saying that. And I teach the assistants, we go through all the scripts on the calls too, that anytime they hear something great, when somebody says, oh, you're so great to call, and, yes, the sign's up or whatever, then you strike when the iron's hot and I give the assistants a script. Thank you for noticing. We so appreciate that. May I ask you a favor? Our business is based on 5-star reviews from great clients like you. Could I send you a link and have you do a 5-star review and mention our team? Remember to say mention our team. I've had them mention the assistants before, and that didn't work so well. So getting clarity on that in the script. What else is measurable? Referrals from their family and friends. What else is measurable? Looking at how they absolutely show up every day and make your life easier. If they're handing you jobs back, I would say you've got a challenge there. So just make sure. Does your assistant bring business to the team? Role play with them. Get them comfortable with asking their family and friends. Have a call night where the admin come in and help with the agents on a call night, but they're calling their family and friends, asking them who do they know. When I called my family and friends when I had little kids, I'd say, hey, my kids need shoes. I need some help. Who do you know? And, just have some fun with it. Role play with them. Get them comfortable with that. Make sure that they're doing something at least once a month on their Facebook pages. And first of all, ask your assistant, how many does he or she have on a Facebook page? I've heard up to like 1,500 people this last assistant class that I trained. And it was unbelievable. And I said, have you ever marketed like a cool house or a cool bathroom and say, hey, what do you guys think about this bathroom? We just listed this home. Pepper it in softly. You don't have to be aggressive in your Facebook page, but get it in. Let them know and say, hey, you guys need any help? This market, like in Austin right now, the market is red hot. Red hot, multiple offers. So why wouldn't an assistant in Austin be putting up, hey, this house sold in 2 hours and 22 minutes, multiple offers. Call us if you're thinking of listing. We've got a buyer for you. All right. So how has your assistant increased business versus only being focused on doing the business? I love it when an assistant says to me, here's something we could streamline. Here's something we could eliminate. Here's something we should do. So streamline, eliminate, or add. So tell your assistant you want them to think like this. Some of us have some really strong personalities that sometimes they won't feel comfortable, giving us ideas because they think, we think we know it all. And yet I am the most receptive person. I said, tell me what I did wrong. Tell me what I need to improve. What can we do in our business to make things better? How's your experience with the clients right now? What's going on? Is there some difficulties that I can help you role play with? Dig in. Is it a requirement of employment for your assistant to increase the business? Well, I can't say that, but I'd like to, and so I do it different ways, is that I'd like you to have a goal. And your goal is that you have a base salary. And your other goal is that you're going to make more money on referrals from your friends and family and past coworkers than you do in salary. Because I want your lifestyle to change. I want your job not to be a cul-de-sac of salary. There's a certain salary on every single level that you cap out at. There's not a salary cap on bringing in business. Now, I pay them 25% from their sphere of influence, not mine. Now, if they ask a client and they get a review, I would pay them, if it's a 5-star review, $25. If it is a referral from a current client and they ask, I pay them maybe $100, $200 at closing, because that's my client. They asked, they did their job, great, here's a little bonus. Okay, so if you have any questions, start putting them in the chat box. All right, so let's look at the next page here, and what's about building a duplicatable and scalable business. So why are systems important? Well, you have to lay the foundation to increase business. It's excellent customer service, and right now, every agent in the world is going after your client. It's an efficient roadmap to duplicating success. It sets expectations for the client, for yourself, for the admin. It's just so important. It defines the goals. It manages stress. When you have systems in place, you can manage stress, and usually you can meet the deadlines, or you get a feel that this deadline's not going to be met. This deadline's a moving target. Then you can inform the client. The agent knows everybody's happy. The assistant knows everybody's on the same page, knowing that it's real estate and people. It's the lender's fault or whoever it is. There's nothing we can do about it. This ensures scalability, but also increases profit. Because your systems are efficient, your assistant has more time to work on other things. So systems for ways to increase income through assistance. Listings. All right, so how does that increase your income? Well, if your assistant does an over-the-top job, and when you pass the file to them, they know who that client is, and I have that whole system of pass the baton. That client feels MMFI is written on their forehead, make me feel important. And that assistant does an over-the-top job with what you've done to get the property listed and sold, then you're going to get that repeat and referral business. You've got this one chance. This is the beginning stage. Closings, that's the icing on the cake, and I talk all the time about how important, no matter what you did on the listing, just sold it over $55,000 ask price, it doesn't matter. It's about the closing. Everything would be negated if the closing goes really south. And I give all the conversations about how to set them up for the seller or the buyer for looking at the inspection report can be such a deal killer. That's a really, really rough one. And so you got to set those and manage those expectations of what's good, what's not good, and all of those scripts. And going back to the listings and setting the expectations, your first offer is probably going to be your best offer, and all of those sort of things, and making your home show ready. This is how you build this customer experience, consumer experience. Sorry, I'm going to change that to consumer experience. Referrals and recruiting. So referrals, we talked about that. Recruiting. Every time, okay, listen to this. What if your assistant, every time that the phone rang, an agent was calling because they can't read MLS and they're asking you a question about the listing. Now I know I train agents to call that agent and say, is there an offer? What's the motivation of the seller? What's the time frame? Anything else I need to know before I write an offer? So those I get. So here's what you have to do though. Train your assistant to create an Excel spreadsheet. Anytime an agent that's not Keller Williams asks you about a property, put it on a spreadsheet. Later, he or she can research how many properties they sold last year. Would they be a candidate for your team, or would they be a candidate for Keller Williams? Gary gave away $1 billion in the last 25 years. With 10% growth every year, within the next 4.5 years, there will be another billion. 10% growth again off of that, there will be another billion off of that. So in the next 7 to 10 years, there'll be $2 billion given away. So teach your assistants to do this and create your assistants in your downline, agents listening to this. It's a partnership, and go get them, all right? And plus, then anytime they're talking to an assistant, that goes into a spreadsheet also. And I always would just send out an email saying, thanks for working with us on the transaction. If you know of anyone thinking about, a career in real estate, we're looking for a new TC, or we've got an opening for a listing manager, please pass this on. Now, sometimes that person will respond back and say, well, I'd like to apply for the job. If they're Keller Williams, we'd probably say, well, no, we're not going to do that because we're part of the family. If they weren't a very good assistant, we say, well, we can't do that because we were in a transaction. If they were really good, we go, sure, we'll talk to you. If they're not Keller Williams, of course. So that's one way. Sometimes they respond themselves, but they do help you out. Recruiting, they should have a vendor relationship to help with recruiting also. Those vendors are out there all over the place, and they know who the good agents are, the new ones coming in that are bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Tracking numbers, that should not be what you do, but there's a whole system for that, and command and whiteboards. I mean, you got to track your numbers. That's your scorecard. And too many times agents bury their head about the numbers. If I'll call an agent and I say, well, what's your production been for this month? I don't know really. Well, you ought to wake up knowing every day where you're at, because you're at zero today. What'd you add to your pipeline? Profit and loss. P&Ls, I don't get into that really hard with them, but I give them an idea of the expenses that they could track for you as part of a benefit. Now, if you have an outside service, great, but maybe they need to get the numbers ready for you. And of course, lead generation. What are you going to have them help you with on lead generation? So can they ask a client for referrals? Absolutely. Can they do a call night with you? Absolutely. If they're licensed and they do a call night, you could have them call other people. Definitely the past clients for sure in the database. I'm not a big proponent of an assistant being a heavy grinder, ISA or OSA. Their talent, their one thing is absolutely the customer experience part of the paperwork. And so, but there are certain ones that they could do. Lead generation, maybe it's making sure that you get on your expired calls, maybe lead generation if you're doing for sale by owners, setting up packets for you, whatever it happens to be, probates, whatever you're working on. We go through a whole bunch of those in senior citizen stuff. Okay, next page, Steph. All right, the growth importance of your database as an asset. What systems should you use for your database? Okay, so I personally like Command. It is absolutely terrific, and what it's doing is amazing. And you ought to take a look at it because the consumer app and Command link together, and you calling your clients and saying, "Hey, can I ask you to request this consumer app? I'd like to have you put it on your phone and give us the feedback. I'd like you to be a lab." We have had over 100,000 people put up on the consumer app in the last 3 days. Well, 3 days after the family reunion, over 100,000 went up. And it's amazing, some of those statistics. So your assistant is the one who should be in charge of all of this. Now, I've strolled around in there many times. I know a little bit about Command. But if I was selling real estate on an active basis right now, that's not my wheelhouse. My wheelhouse is to go talk to people, put them on paper, all right? So how do you structure and organize your database? We go through a lot of that. I personally like past clients being separated from sphere of influence. Past clients, somebody who bought something from you. The vendors have their own area. We can pull that up. Team. So there's 5 referral things. Let's talk about that. So there's 5. So when you're looking up your referrals, you've also got to break these out into categories. There's an agent referral. We have 162,000 Keller Williams agents. Are you on your Kelly? I know that's getting transferred over, but okay. All right. Agent referrals, team referrals, vendor referrals is number 3, center of influence number 5, and then 4, and number 5 would be past clients. Divide those up. So when people say, well, I have 35% repeat and referral, and I go, from what area? Oh, I don't know. Those are the 5 areas that you add all those up to, okay? What percentage of your business comes from your database? Well, you want at least 35 to 40% would be amazing, and yet when you look at, let's say you have 1,000 people, you want to go toward the goal of 10% should be doing something or giving you referrals. That'd be 100 people. And yet when you look at 35% of your business, let me make that clear. I may have screwed that up, messed that up. Sorry, Mel. 35% of your business, should be past clients, center of influence, repeat and referral, vendors, team, etc. And if it's higher than that, sometimes I say, well, that's good, but yet are you working on enough new leads, new people in your database? Because at some point, it gets a little old, the database. Okay, next page, Steph. So, there's a lot of things that you can do, from blogging to client events and whatever you want to do. My favorite event has been a shredding party. You can rent a shredding truck for like $350, have them come to the parking lot. Like, don't do it the week of April 14th. They're still comatose, April 15th. Have them come the first week of May or the middle of May. Come to the parking lot, have popcorn, have your vendors there, face painters, whatever. They bring their boxes and the shreds right there. The vendor can pay for that truck, by the way. That's free. Movie nights are really big. Free LED nights. Host a home improvement class. And, of course, there's always the pies. Now, I wasn't a believer in the pies, but the pies seem to really, really work. And so there's a gal that I coach, and she gave out 350 pies and got 67 referrals that day. How did she do that? 67 referrals, because she said, if you would like this other table, there's a gift card to Amazon, or there's a bottle of wine. Just write down on your registration that you signed in who you know is thinking about buying or selling. Within 2 weeks, she listed 6 houses, and half of those people are going to do something this year. The other half, she's got name, address, phone number, and email. She's working them. Okay, next page, Stephanie. Talk about repeat and referral business. You know, I mentioned this script before. I know it pretty strong. Thank you for working with our team. We so appreciate your business. Can I ask you a favor? Our business is based on referrals from great people like you. Who do you know that's thinking about buying or selling? Thanks for thinking about that. I hope you don't mind. I'd like to ask you from time to time. You know, it doesn't matter where you are in the listing. Asking that every single time, okay, that sounds like too much. Well, it works for Mike Hicks. 525 deals. He does the promise, and half of them are referrals from the current client. It's a pretty strong statistic. Okay, next page, Stephanie. Agent-to-agent referrals. Okay, so you guys should be knowing how to work this stuff, and I know things are going to get transferred over, but if they haven't already, that is your source for your agents and referrals, and it manages it all for you. It tracks them. We used to have binders around the office tracking outgoing referrals, incoming referrals, outgoing referrals. It's all there. It's done for you. So let me go to the next page real fast here, and I'll open it up for some questions. Developing programs for vendor contributions. This is the script, and of course you guys will get all the screens, so you can take a picture now or whatever. So this is a partner agreement. We're telling them we're partners, and you're going to find us business. And then we would track anytime they brought us donuts or they brought us office supplies like legal pads or pens or something like that. We track if they're making any contribution. And then, of course, after a team event where they contributed highly. So, Stephanie, do we have any questions right now you'd like to go over with me?
Yes, ma'am, we do.
Okay, go to the last page real quick, and then we'll go to the questions. Okay?
There we go.
Okay? All right. Questions?
Okay, so the questions are, any advice on how, this is from Chris Taylor, by the way, any advice on how to find a good assistant? I have a full-time assistant, have had several before, and can't seem to find a killer. I'm an awful manager and a terrible trainer who's done PREA. Great program, but how do I find that great assistant? They've tried referrals, LinkedIn, ads, etc.
Okay, there's a whole bunch of places, so get ready to write. First of all, thank you for going to the Perfect Real Estate Assistant. Send the new one in, send this one in if she hasn't been in, because it changes all the time, especially with the command stuff. So send them to these classes, because I change it based on the market trends too. So with that said, the first place that I always look is in the database. And I send out a nice email to the database saying, dear, everyone, thank you for, support. My team is growing. We're looking for people who want a career in real estate. We're looking for this person. Please pass this email on to anyone you think would be interested. Okay. Second thing I do is I call the vendors that live off the land, so to speak, of everything I do, and say, okay, today is Tuesday. By Friday at 12 o'clock, I need 3 names. Now, I don't have to use your names. I can keep it anonymous. People that would be a great assistant for me, a great team member. They can have a job, been downsized. I don't care. 3 names. I didn't say, can you provide me 3 names? I said, you will. I say, you're going to give me 3 names. You're going to think about it all week, and you're going to come up with 3 names. And I need to know who they are. So I'm not asking, could you think of anyone? Because they're all going to say no. Okay, so no, you have to give me 3 names. Okay, third place that I go to is that I go to Indeed.com, INDEED.com. I'm going to give you another one too that works pretty well if you're really super busy and you don't want to deal with it. Go to WiseHire.com. I think they charge $195. They will put the ads out there. They'll do the screening based on the DISC test, which is fine. That's the next place I go. College. There's college bulletin boards and job bulletin boards, electronic, of course, where you could put your job up there that you are looking for someone. And believe it or not, I've got college kids that are looking for a job that think, wow, that'd be fun to work in a real estate office. And they come with really good, strong computer skills. And depending on the job match, they might be a great match for a while. The next one that I look at that I think is really strong too is that anytime you're in front of anyone, like a seller or buyer, you're asking, hey, thank you for signing the listing, Mr. Seller. I just wanted to ask you, my business is growing. Do you know of anyone thinking about a career in real estate? Gary Keller said, ask every single person you know. Now, Lance Loken's team used to only hire servers at restaurants. I mean, they were really big on that because they're in the service industry. Imagine that. So true story, I was in Toronto, Canada last summer, went out with a group of 10 top agents there at Keller Williams in Toronto. We're at this table. Everybody has a different order, vegan and gluten-free. And, it just went on, right? And so this gal got it absolutely perfect, darling gal. And I said, hey, thanks for getting that order all straightened out and pretty quick. I said, you're awesome. What's your name? She said, Megan. And now I told the agents, I said, watch this. I said, Megan, have you ever thought about a career in real estate? You are awesome with your customer service, your big smile. You are great. And she says, I'm taking my test next week. And I said, have you thought of a real estate company? And she goes, no, not really. I wanted to get my license first, and then I thought I'd look around. And I went, just stop right there. We can help you. And of course, everybody pulls out their business card, right? So just remember, they're right in front of you sometimes. When you meet someone, the other one, listen to this, buyer agents, they're great. Go to the makeup counter at Nordstrom's or wherever. Those gals there, guys, they're awesome. They're great salespeople, and they have a script, trust me. So with that said, that's how you go for that. That's a list of them. And then if you go to the assistant class, there's a whole bunch more too that we go through. Go ahead for time, Stephanie. What else?
Okay, so I'm going to attempt to let Jim Gilday talk because he has his hand up. So
okay,
let me. Okay, he may have unraised his hand at this point.
Okay, so then go to the next question.
Let me know if you want to raise your hand again. So on the subject of a good assistant, how much do you pay a good assistant? Elvira Avila would like to know.
Okay, so depending on where you live is the answer. So you pay a good wage so that they can afford to live. So in San Diego, California, you can't pay minimum wage when the average sales price is $800,000 and they pay a 14% state income tax. However, you can pay, like for example, in Louisiana, and I'm just because of cost of living, maybe 25 to 30,000 base salary, whatever the base salaries are for the going rate in your area. And then like California, it might be anywhere from 35 to 45 to 50,000. Depending on how much experience they come into. So there's always a base salary. And then I always hire someone and I say, your base salary is never going to change. Well, we're never going to negotiate that. What's going to change is the bonuses that you earn. So first I talk about the referrals, and I talk about their Facebook. I talk about their phone contacts, which most of them have 300 in there or more, and say how this is going to help them with the 25%, show them the average commission, what that means. And then I say, I'm going to pay you on every closing because I want you to want the success of the team. We're going to start out with a $50 on every closing. At the end of 6 months, your first 6 months, we'll look at changing that. It'll eventually cap out, you can say at 100 or 150, whatever you want to say. And so the more closings I do, the more money you make. And that's how that rolls. Okay, what's the next question, Stephanie?
Okay, so the next question is from Grant Sprague, and he says, Command or Kelly tracks agent-to-agent referrals. How do we track referrals from past clients?
Well, good one. You need to track those. Okay, so the way that I did it, and I'm not sure that Command has a way in there. You can see the referrals, I'm sure, in the data. And so what you want to do is, whether Command does this or not, but I'd have to research this, but you can create a field, and every time a client gives you a referral, there's a dollar sign that you have to create a field. So I've taught everyone that's been in a class that in your whatever CRM you're using, put a dollar sign in the field, and every time they give you a referral. So for example, you gave me a referral, your brother bought a house. and I earned a $5,000 commission. I'm going to put the $5,000 commission on you in the dollar sign because I earned a commission because you gave me a referral. I also have your brother in the database, and he's now worth $5,000. So when you go to sell your database and you go to sell your business when you get out, and you have 200 clients and you know exactly how much money you earned on each one, there's your nugget. Okay, there's your nugget. Okay, good. Next one, Steph.
Okay, so Jessica Cook says, I am a brand new realtor, just got my license, and will be an assistant to start out. Are there any trainings I can attend or videos to watch? This webinar is great, and I'd love more of these.
Okay, look at that screen right there. March 3rd, mapscoaching.com/group. Perfect Real Estate Assistant starts next week. You would love it. Get your agent to invest in it, and it's $199 a month. There's $100 off from being on this web today. That's seriously the best. You're going to get a 450-page office policy and procedures manual. You're going to get, live calls with me where you can ask questions. You get 40 to 50 pages, almost every week of systems, so you're not reinventing the wheel. So there's checklist systems, there's letters, there's lead generation systems. We go through how to handle the phone. The phone's the cash register. That's critical that you have the scripts and that you know what you need to be role playing, and how to handle a client that's upset, that's real negative about the closing or about the sale of their house, whatever it happens to be. We can teach you all of that. So great question. Show that screen to your boss, or make the investment, I usually say, to assistants in yourself also too. So we'll love to see you on the call. Okay, good. What else, Stephanie?
Okay, and then Mari McCart says in Florida, it states that you cannot pay any form of compensation aside from the salary. So how would you be able to pay a bonus?
I have a hard time believing that the state forbids bonuses.
Well, it's part of your salary.
Yeah, a bonus is a bonus. And so I've never heard of a state that says you cannot pay your employees a bonus. That's unheard of to me. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I've never heard of that. How you can get around that is that if your assistant is licensed, then you pay them a 25% referral fee. If they're not licensed, you pay them whatever you want on a bonus structure. So sorry to hear that about Florida, but there's so many salespeople in Florida that work on bonuses, I'm sure, and huge corporations. I've never heard of a state saying that you can't pay a bonus to someone. So I'd check into that further. Let me know. Happy to change my mind. Okay. All right. What else, Steph?
Okay, Monica, that was the last question of the day.
Good. Last time I looked in America, and I can pay anybody whatever kind of money I want. Just saying, right? Okay, good. All right. So, guys, I appreciate you being on the call. If you have any other questions, it's monica@kw.com. Love to see you sign up for next week. If you know of anyone thinking about this program, send them the information. This call and the screenshots will be sent to you. And so go have a powerful career. And the real estate assistant is a secret weapon. It's my one thing. Thanks, everybody. Have a terrific week. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.